Welcome to the Straight Up the Guts podcast with Matt Grubelich, Greg Harding, former Docker and Eagle. Greg, episode 3. Great to be back here with you. And we are glad that you can be along with us for the journey across this season. Like and subscribe. We'd love for you to be involved with us each and every week. And it's all thanks to a couple of big sponsors, rather. Got the old radio coming
You're
out.
on 91.3 again, weren't you?
That's what I was thinking. Hey, thanks to Geograph Equipment Hire in Canning Vale, your trusted partner for mining and construction. Hire solutions backed by hands-on industry experience and a passion for customer service. Thanks to Grubo's Truckin' and emergency water supplies in Biibra Lake. Out of water, from swimming pools to tanks, domestic and commercial. And thank you to Tint in Osborne Park. Enhance privacy and style for your ride and home. Visit Tintacar Osborne Park today and feel the difference. Round 2 in the books. What were your thoughts on the weekend? What was the biggest story out of the weekend for you?
Probably West Coast.
Yeah.
Wasn't it? Wasn't it great to see them get up and have a win? And they did it well too. You know, like 30-odd points down, looked dead, looked like it was going to be a hiding. And then, yeah, the kids were good. Yeah, we've been hard on the kids, but, you know, those tools are starting to look okay, aren't they, mate? And Harley and Dersman was fantastic. And then their senior players, I thought Graham had his best game. Yo was fantastic. Cripps was great. Kelly looked really, really sharp again, you know. So, yeah, I reckon that was the story, mate.
We spoke about recruiting, and we might delve into that today, but someone like a Milan Murdoch, who was picked up in the SSP, he's almost a barometer for them in a sense, in the effort and energy that he brings. He's just that pure footballer, loves to go hard in at the contest, and a couple of goals, kicked the sealer. Again, great game from Milan Murdoch. Unfortunately, out with injury by the looks of it this week and maybe for a couple of weeks.
Yeah, real shame, mate, because I thought he was in their top 5 players, and just with that energy and strength and attack, and he's got a bit of antagonism about him as well, which I love, as opposed to the Patrick Voss event on the weekend. But look, a real shame that he's got a string. I hope it doesn't keep him out too long, because in my mind I thought he probably needs 4 or 5 games to solidify himself with the coaching staff, potentially, because he hasn't trained all pre-season with them. But when I sort of look at his form, I think he's already done that, hasn't he? He's one of their best players, and as soon as he's ready to go, he's straight back in.
I think so. He's been fantastic. And, we spoke about it last week, I think it was, but you look at someone like Chris Sherry, even for Freo, comes in through the SSP, the burst of speed that we saw from him. How are these players getting missed?
As we spoke about, mate, the recruiting departments can sometimes be well off the pace, and that's what we're seeing, not only with these sorts of players like a Manor, like a Milan Murdoch, like a Sherry, who's come in and should go nowhere. Like his energy and consistent attack was superb, but, you know, collectively as well, West Coast have been really poor for a long period of time in their recruiting department. Doesn't matter who coaches a team if they don't have the talent. And Essendon now find themselves in the same boat, mate. They are cooked, and with Tassie coming in 2028, teams like West Coast and Essendon and the teams down the bottom are they're going to spend 5-10 years in the doldrums, mate, because you can't draft your way out of it over the next 5 years.
You don't think Essendon's the biggest story coming out of the round?
No, because we knew they were going to be shit. You know, we knew Essendon was really bad. You know, like they've been bad for a long period of time. They haven't played finals in 25 years. The list was awful. You know, the unrest with Merritt. You know, and yeah, it added a layer with Brad Scott being really poor in the presser, but we knew Essendon were going to be bottom 2.
Yeah.
So, not for me.
The pile-on from the media, to me, is a little much after a couple of games of footy. I don't know about you, but I just think that you need to give them at least a couple of games to see what they're all about before we start piling in on Brad Scott, before we start saying, well, they're a shit club. We sort of knew that already, like you said. I just think, why isn't the biggest story out of the round West Coast from a West Australian perspective? And it probably is if you live here in WA. But if you're over in Melbourne, the Western Bulldogs have won 3 straight games, and they've done it against quality teams. Why is that not the biggest story out of the weekend?
Yeah, because we don't tend to dwell on the positive stuff, do we? We look for a story every single week, and I tend to do that myself because I hate the world. I like the negative stuff.
Why do you hate the world,
I
Greg?
just do, mate. Look, people are no good. I do. I just tend to like go that way. Like I tend to go that way. So I tend to like the negative stories. But yeah, look, there's some great teams going around, and Western Bulldogs is a story. But yeah, like Essendon, big club, one of the big four clubs. I know they've been bad for a while, but it's one of the big four. Carlton, Richmond, Essendon, those sorts of sides. They're the big four in Melbourne. Collingwood that's the big four. So yeah, when they sniff blood, the media and fans sniff blood. That's what we go after. And yep, whilst Essendon we knew were going to be bad, they have been pumped by North Melbourne bottom six times, bottom six side. They've been pumped by Port bottom six side, and it sets up a tasty little morsel this weekend against North Melbourne, doesn't it?
It does.
Sorry, who do they play this week?
Yeah.
North. They get beaten by Hawthorn, for round one, but sets up a real tasty one this week.
It does. When do you think Essendon last felt like part of the Big Four, though? Because to me, they haven't felt like a powerhouse club since the days of Kevin Sheedy.
Yeah, I agree. And the peptide saga really knocked them around as well.
But
so,
have they recovered from that fully? No.
Because I think internally, mate, I still think they want Herd back. I still think after everything he did to that club and oversaw that scandal and ticked off on what they were doing to players, which, yeah, people will go, oh, they've come out and they haven't been found to be guilty and it wasn't drugs and all those sorts of things. They were still injecting peptides and unknown substances into their players. So, yeah, but after all that and after Herd overseeing that process, they still want him back. Sheedy's still lurking in the shadows, like as this doyen of footy. Like Sheedy lost his shit a long time ago, mate. If you listen to him speak, he's like a crazy old grandfather. But he's still lurking in the shadows. They always talk about Essendon men. Welsh is back as a CEO. Solomon's sort of sitting there as well as someone that's done a little bit of coaching on the side. They want Essendon men in there. They think that's the only way they can be successful. So that's hanging over their head. But at the end of the day, Dodoro hung on for way too long as a recruiter. He's been around for nearly the entirety of that 25 years in terms of recruiting. He fell in love with small forwards, so recruited them at pace for a long period of time. And he's put, him and the recruiting staff over a long period of time have put him in a hole, which now, as we said, with Tassie coming in, when are Essendon going to be good again? Could be a St Kilda scenario. 64 years in the doldrums.
Yeah, one premiership.
Yeah.
Yeah, it is a little scary. Where do you think this negative attitude towards the world has come from? Is it an age thing? Am I a little more optimistic in my being youthful or what?
Mate, I want you to stay positive, but people burn you over time.
Yeah,
over time, so you just tend to stick to your 3 or 4 mates and the good people in the world, and you stay away from the other 99.9% of the population that are all lunatics. So that's my take on life.
Well, why don't we get into what's given us the shits at the moment in the footy?
Yeah, go now.
What's the number one thing on the hit list for you?
For me, from the weekend, being a Fremantle man, Patrick Voss. There you go. All right, you want to talk about him?
Let's get into it. Yeah. Vossy, a character.
Yeah, character's fine. Don't give me that's fine. Character's fine, mate. But I sort of see it this way, mate. Is like Voss appeals to the footy enough, right? That's all he appeals to, because internally, like the AFL footy world would laugh at Patrick Voss if you're a player at another club, right? Because he acts like a flog. He doesn't act like an antagonist. There's a difference, right? So the antagonist, if you cast your mind back, Maynard's an antagonist. Hayden Ballantyne was an antagonist that physically go hard at you, but go hard at the pill as well. And they'd mastered the game, right? They were A-grade players in their own right. This bloke's a B-grader at best at the moment. Who had a pretty good year last year, don't get me wrong, but he was probably picking up the 3rd or 4th best defender. Now, he's running around and doing that stuff, right, to a Melbourne that didn't have, I know they're not at the club anymore, but didn't have Petrarca, Oliver and Viney didn't play on the weekend. So he looks like a flat track bully. He's going at Max Gawn, one of the greatest players and greatest gentleman you've ever seen in your life. He's going at Max Gawn in that game, along with Petty. Right, and he's acting like an absolute flog. Now, the week before, he did the same thing, celebrated a goal, right, like an absolute idiot, which missed, and then 2 minutes later gave away a 50, which arguably cost Fremantle the game, right? And, yeah, like, what we all hate is the player that acts like a child on the ground, right? Because it just appeals to the nuffy. When he picked up Langdon at the end of the game, that's fine. That's a bit of character. It's a bit of byplay, no dramas. But the petty stuff is, it just doesn't work. And look, I look at would Clarkson and Hodge have accepted this Hawthorn on their run?
Probably not.
Cochin and Hardwick, Malthouse, Worsfold. I think this is going to be an indicator of Fremantle's maturity because I saw Tracy run in, and Tracy's, I reckon, in my opinion, their best player at the moment. I saw Tracy come in and push him away because I reckon he was embarrassed as well, by his carry on. And I'm all for Patrick Voss being hard at the footy and antagonising players and being up in their face and aggressive and doing all that stuff. But don't be a flog. That hurts teams. And I can see that. What I can see happening is Freo getting to a final, him getting it wrong through a lack of maturity and costing Fremantle a game of footy. That's what I can see from him because I don't think he's measured enough to actually get it done. And he's only appealing to one group of people, which is the nuffy supporter that goes, Patrick Voss, look at him, he's fucking great. No, internally from the other players inside the AFL, he'd just be seen as a joke.
Is there a case to be made that it has the ability to lift a club a little bit, give them a bit more energy, character, effort, all those sorts of things? No,
not internally from a player group. No, not at all. When he's up and about and he's tackling hard and he's getting in people's faces and he's aggressive, right? No problem with that. That has an ability to to get a player group up and about. But the childish stuff, the flog stuff, just park that, Patrick, right? And concentrate being on a good player because he's been pretty lean early in the year. He kicked 30 odd last year, had a good year, right? But he was probably getting the third or fourth best one, right? Now with a miss being out of the mix. Could you say, Fife's not sort of going down there and playing there as well. I could see this being a little bit, the kid, God rest his soul, the young kid McCarthy who passed away, right? Remember he had that enormous year for GWS?
Yeah.
But he was getting the fourth one. It was Jonathan Patton. He was getting the fourth best forward. And, he had the breakout year, kicked 40, got respect the following year and really battled. Now, I could see that happening to Patrick Voss. So concentrate on solidifying himself as a good player. He's a B grader now. Can he push up to be a B pluser? But I don't think he'll ever be an A grader. But can he push up and solidify himself as a really good player?
Yeah.
And he can do that with his aggressive mindset. But just park the flog. Concentrate on being a good player, right? Because I think he's going to get more respect this year.
So now moving on from this round, there is going to be a free kick against if you rub someone's head. It's going to be considered high, or there's the taunting now that's being brought in. I don't like the rubbing of the head.
No.
I think it's childish as well, personally. I think it's silly. I think you wouldn't do it if you were in the real world to some random stranger on the street and not expect any retaliation. I don't know why people think they can do it in footy and just expect nothing back. I think that's an issue. I think he should just reel that back in. It's the same with Harley Reid going at Comben, right, and going in to bump him when he was standing there defenceless and not expecting to get hit back. He got hit in the head back and he deserved it because he was going to run in and bump him. You can't expect to go at someone and for there to be no retaliation. That's my thought on it anyway. And so I didn't like it. I don't like the crying stuff either. Get on with that. That's a couple of years old. That was 22, 23.
Yeah, correct.
Yeah. Well, it's all right. We've moved on.
And you're a flat track bully. Like Melbourne, no one's got Melbourne in their top 12.
Yeah.
No one. If they get there, it'd be a real surprise given their midfield stocks.
Yeah.
And you just look like a flat track bully.
Yeah.
Okay, come out against Western Bulldogs and do that against the Bont, all right, and see if that works, or Richards, or Tony Liberatore and stuff like that. But do it against the good side, Patrick.
Yeah,
all right, and see how it comes off. You don't you don't see Dacostum acting like that. You don't see Bontempelli acting like that. You don't see the elite players in our competition acting like that. And Tracy, I saw real leadership out of Tracy on the weekend. I love the fact that he came in and pushed him away. Which elevates him up to captain status for mine. But I think you're right. The rubbing in the head, the Darcy one with Worrell in that game as well. I totally agree with you. It's a childish thing, and the fact is that our game is so soft now. The people do it. Like Patrick Voss and Worrell probably can't fight their way out of a wet paper bag, but the rules state that you can't retaliate. Right? Back in my day, if the rules are like that, I'd go after Tony Lockett. No dramas. But back in my day, if I had a run at Tony Lockett would have ripped my head off and shit me neck. He would have, mate. Yeah. He would have cracked you. But we've made the game so soft that we can't retaliate. Yeah. Right? Yeah. And therefore, you can be a flogging
metre against Darcy for throwing him to the ground.
Correct. What? Yeah, correct. So, yeah, the one with Harley, I thought the Harley one was okay. Like, fed it to him, it was aggressive, and he got cracked in the head. He got what he deserved, and I love the fact that it was play on. No consistency out of the AFL because he should have got 2 weeks hitting him in the head. But I don't mind that. Like the carry on from Harley can go over the top, but I didn't mind the Harley.
I didn't mind it from Harley either.
Yeah.
But it's just there is this expectation that you can run up to someone who's just standing there and give them a hip and shoulder, and then for them to just take it.
Imagine if that happened in the NRL.
Oof.
Willie Mason goes bang.
Yeah. Well, there'd be a big still brawl, I reckon, in the NRL. Yeah, from time to time. Yeah, there is. Yeah. The other thing I hate, and I think there are a lot of people in the same boat that want to eradicate this from the game, is when you tackle someone and you receive a free kick for holding the ball, and then you're kneeling over your opponent and you push them into the dirt. Yeah. What is that?
Oh, mate, it's one of my pet peeves as well, mate. I can't stand it. And, it often happens from players that may only tackle once or twice in a game of footy. It often happens from, someone taking the game on and you finally get them and you put them in there and you push them in the back of the head. Again, it's a flog move, which I despise because it's normally against players tough. That are fake tough, and normally against the player making the play. So, hate it. I'm in your boat, mate. I hate that movement from players. It's that floggish behaviour that just makes your blood boil.
Did you hear Wayne Carey?
This game is that diluted. This game is half, 3/4, 80% of the players playing now would not have got a game in the 90s. It is diluted like you would not believe. Players that are at the end of their careers are in career best form because the game is weaker. It is a softer, weaker version of when, dare I say it, when we played the game.
100%, mate.
Yeah,
no doubt. And I even look back at those years, the 80s, the 83, 84 games, Essendon and Hawthorn. You look at the skill level across the board with those two teams. The Leon Bakers and the Dipper-Domenicos and those guys running around. And they're incredible sides. Dermot Brereton, Dunstall, other end is Salmon and, Harvey. Unbelievable sides, mate. And I think he's 100% right. That was back when there was 12 teams in the competition. Now there's 18, about to be 19. The talent's been diluted at the same time that talent development and fundamental skills coming down. So I totally agree. Athletically, are we better? Yes, because they're all full-time. But in terms of skill level and ability, it's nowhere near it where it was in Wayne Carey's era. Nowhere near.
There was a combative nature as well to the game, and now there's so much focus on being a professional athlete, the way you want to move the ball, execute the skills. There's so much focus on that I guess getting that certain edge over your opponents as well in terms of a combative nature. I think that's been taken out of the game too a little bit, and that's sort of where he's coming from, in my opinion too. But yeah, and there's going to be a 20th team as well. That's the other thing. Yeah. There's going to be a 20th.
The 20th is coming.
Yeah.
And this is where I just can't see how West Coast and Essendon can get themselves out of where they're at the moment. Like, Tassie comes in and has $5 million worth of sign-on bonuses. On top of all their drafting concessions. And then how long, 2-3 years before the next one comes in to even up the competition and we level out at 20? There's just not that many good players going around. And it's the same in the AFLW. 18 teams, there aren't that many good AFLW players going around. So the product at the bottom end is shit. And the product at AFL level at the bottom end is shit. And it's going to be worse. So over the next sort of 10 to 15 years, the bad teams are going to be bad, mate, because we're diluting it so badly.
The AFLW is an interesting one. They give you the prime example of how expansion and how expanding too quickly can cause just real problems. To me, if you look at the NRL women's competition, they have not expanded to having every team in the competition yet. And they are a much better quality competition of rugby league women's than comparing to Australian rules footy. The AFLW, because the AFL wanted to go, hey, look at us, look at what we're doing for women, look at what we're doing for the community. We've got all these teams in the competition already. They've expanded so quickly that, the bottom end it's poor to watch. But if you look at the top teams, the top 4 or 5, 6 teams, they're actually really good.
Yeah, I'd probably go a little bit less than that. I think North Melbourne are miles and miles ahead of everyone. Adelaide, Brisbane, from what I've seen. But yeah, there's only 2 or 3, mate, that go around that's watchable. And if they had have just held it back and kept it to, I think the AFLW should be currently at 6 to 8 teams. I think that's what the talent can sustain. And then you allow teams to play in the state leagues and grow the game and invest money from the AFL into the bottom end. And as you grow it and get it really good at grassroots level, then you can add teams into the lead end of the pathway. And this has been proven time and time again, and this is why I say AFL is a myth in many ways. You pile money into the top end, it's at the detriment of the game, long term. Right, but again, the AFL is going to has done that, put the cart in front of the horse, and therefore, unwatchable. Like half of the games, probably more than half the games every week are unwatchable. But mind you, that's not being misogynistic, because you turn on North Melbourne, Essendon this week, it might be a contest, but it'll be unwatchable for talent.
Oh, it will be unwatchable, and it's going to be interesting. We've seen the North Melbourne Footy Club go down to the West Coast Eagles this past weekend, so why don't we get into that game firstly? You mentioned off the top that the West Coast Eagles are the story out of the round. So 17-point winners, 17-9-1-11 to 15-4-94. After quarter time, the Eagles piled it on. 13 of the last 20 goals in the game, outstanding. We spoke about certain players, Harley Reid, Milan Murdoch. Jamie Cripps was really good, looked as good as he's looked in over 12 months of footy, and the list goes on. So, talk about the takeaways of the game.
I think the takeaways were West Coast tools. For mine, we sort of knew if West Coast were going to win 5 or 6 games, Yeo would have to be great, Waterman would have to be great, Cripps would be good, Kelly would have to get back to his best, and that happened, didn't it? But they showed real character. There's no doubt to keep coming and level it up, and then after that, they really didn't look like losing, did they? But I think the takeaways were Duff, Tytler, Reid, Shanahan. If they can keep those 3 going, right, and somehow hold on to Dersma and Harley Reid at the back end of next year when they're both out of contract, then it's the makings of some sort of team, isn't it? My gut feel is I think they need to turn one of those big 3 around and play them back, because they're so weak down back. And then Harry Edwards looks, to be honest, he's a kid that I coached, and I looked at Harry and that contact he got for the concussion on the weekend and go, Harry's nearly done. When you look at a Hamish Brayshaw, you remember late in his career, you get a little clip and then it was concussion again. You're starting to have real troubles when minor impact causes you a concussion. So I saw that with Harry. He didn't get a big clip there. He got his bell rung a little bit with a stray arm. But, for him to be concussed from that, he's got problems. So all of a sudden there you lose a key defender. Yeah, I've got a feeling that I'd like to see one of those guys go back behind it, and because the 3 tools ahead of it doesn't really work. And Duff Tytler looks like the one that's going to take over from Flynn.
Well, he has to be. I think that's good. Yeah, he does. He looked great on the weekend, as did a number of their younger players. I think Duff Tytler, to me, though, needs to, if he's going to be the Eagles' ruckman moving forward, if he's going to be their next Nick Nat, Dean Cox, whoever else, Paul Harding, whatever, if he's going to be that guy, then he needs to develop a lot quicker than most ruckmen do.
Yeah, no doubt. But I think he will. He'll play every game. He'll have some really lean games.
Yeah.
The thing I liked about him is he really showed some real nous and movement ahead of the ball as well, which you can't find. One of the hardest roles to fill, I reckon, at AFL level is the third tall backup ruck. And I'm not saying he will be that, but the fact that he can sit there and play forward and develop that side of his game as well, whilst you have Flynn, who we all know isn't in the top echelon of ruckman, but he's a big battering ram that can absorb physical pressure. And then you can, McWalter can mix and match him. He can develop him as a forward. He can insert him when the pace comes out of the game. And he's got a ruckman, a younger ruckman or a smaller ruckman, like a Grundy or whatever, that he can go up against and compete against. I think they're in a really good spot, West Coast, to develop that guy week in, week out. And Reid and Shanahan. But I just got a feeling between Reid and Shanahan, I'd love one of them to go behind the ball. And I reckon it would be Reid, or I reckon Reid reads the ball nicely and catches it really well. Just to see if they can find something behind it, because I don't think it's going to be Harry with those head knocks. He was sort of battling. He's been battling as a player as it is. And the young guy, the 20, what's the 20's name, the fullback from Richmond?
Yeah, it's gone out of my head now too.
I think, I'm not sure whether he's going to cut the mustard. Young, I'm not sure Young's going to cut the mustard. So I'd like to see him with those tall players that look like they're the ones that are going to be the peaches. Yeah. Let's see if we can find a key defender out of one of those, because I don't think they've got anything.
Yeah, so good win in the end for the West Coast Eagles. As you mentioned, really liked some of their younger players coming through, and can they add a little bit more experience moving forward? They probably need, a few more players in that regard just to help them along with certain development. But a very good win for the Eagles on the weekend. As we mentioned, Milan Murdoch, disappointing that he has suffered a hamstring injury. So the Dockers, good win against the D's in the end. That strong first quarter, both first quarters for Fremantle this season to start off have been... The footy they've played has been as good as anyone's in the competition.
Scintillating, yeah, it was scintillating. And I know I spoke to my good mate Jeff Valentine, who's head of development down at Freo, and I was talking to him about, because I wanted to know whether, with all these hamstring injuries, whether the high-speed running has gone up. And he sort of hadn't seen a hell of a lot of data come out that said that's the case. He did say that their running numbers in that first quarter against Geelong were just through the roof, like unbelievable. Hadn't seen anything like it for speed and pace and endurance, all those sorts of things. So yeah, they're running bloody hard. Freo, they're looking good. But yeah, they're playing some really, really good footy. And I love the fact on the weekend there's two things for them to look so solid with Sarong getting tagged out of the game and not having Young. For them to look so solid, I reckon, was the thing for me that I really loved about Freo. I reckon Johnson's looking fantastic. I think he's taken a step. I reckon Erasmus is looking rock solid at the moment. Then they bring in a Sherry that tackled and played like a man and applied pressure and made us better. Us, I shouldn't say us. Made Fremantle better. And Tracy just continues to be a bona fide star. And I think he's the best player in the competition. So that's what I really loved, and the big question mark.
Best player in the competition, did you just say? Or best
mate,
player
I think he's one of the best players in the competition.
That's
maybe not the best player in the comp. That's fucking stupid, isn't it? But geez, he's a monster. Like he looks like he. You remember when Jacko was just a dominant defender and it looked like he couldn't get beat. This guy looks like that. Yeah, no, I shouldn't have said he's the best player in the competition, but shit, I think if I was put on the spot, is he a top 20 player in the comp? Yeah, I think he is. Is he top 10? I would arguably say yes. I think certainly he's Fremantle's most important. If he goes out of that side, Freo cooked.
Yeah.
So yeah, shit, he's a fucking good player now, mate.
Oh, he's great.
He's a beast.
Yeah. And it's not all just talent. It's a lot of it is working hard, willpower. It's, and he doesn't always win the contest, but at least he halves it most times and brings it to ground for his crummers at his feet. It is great to watch, isn't it? And if he gets beaten, which is rare now, but if he does, the next contest, he's going hard as.
And mate, like a couple of those, I saw him tackle a bloke, and like he ended up like around him. I won't say in him, but like he ended up around him. Yeah. Like he just whacked him. He's so strong, and he's got teams really worried. They're trying to come off a miss and come off Voss and be third man in, and then they're getting desperate and they're making errors, and then that's freeing up other players around him. He's a good player. It's just that ruck setup, I think, now is Fremantle's greatest concern at the moment.
Well, Darcy again looked on the back foot this past weekend. Max Gawn took full advantage, especially every time Darcy was in the ruck. So does Cox get a go? Do they maybe just go with Jackson as the sole ruckman, put Voss in as the pinch hitter? What do they do?
I'd like to see that. I'd like to see Voss go in and have a look at it. They're not going to do that, I don't think. But yeah, I'd like to see that Jackson stand alone and Voss. So I think they're going to have to. Yeah, I think that's the big query. But it's a long season. They're going to win. They're going to whack a lot of teams. I think they're going to finish top 4. They've got a lot of time to work out what is their best mix leading into finals and potentially prelim finals if things go well. I think they got a long time to work out what that looks like, whether it is, Cox to come in, whether it is just Jackson stand alone and Voss to back him up and go a little bit smaller, because the game is in perpetual motion, and maybe Cox will come in and be quite irrelevant as well with how quick the game's going. So plenty of time. It's a concern, but yeah, at this stage of the year, and they've got plenty of time to work it out.
Does Darcy need to go back to Peel for, say, a month and just get some confidence? And similar to that with an Amos as well. I do wonder, do those two just need to go back to Peel, play a month of footy and just get some confidence back into their game?
Yeah, I would, but we said that last year about Jai. Jai needed to go back for 4 or 5 weeks last year, and Longy, one of Longy's greatest strengths and probably his greatest weekness. It sort of works like that sometimes. He backs his players. So he stuck with a miss. He persisted. He went with it, and he ended up, I think, kicking 30-odd goals, but his contests and his competition and his tackling was really poor. And it probably got him in the end. Probably, it came around to bite Longy on the arse. So he didn't do it last year. I don't expect him to do it this year as well. And the thing with those sorts of players, I reckon, mate, as well, and when you're playing in a semi-dominant team, like Freo are going to be dominant against a lot of players, a lot of teams. A miss will have those days where he gets a couple of Joe the Gooses, gets a couple of nice lead-ups on the fast break, and he'll kick a 4, and that'll sustain him through the next 5 or 6 weeks of potentially poor performance and hold him in. So, yeah, I think he needs to, personally, I think they need to put a hard edge on a miss and a hard edge on Darcy, which doesn't seem to be there at the moment. But Longy has got a history of backing his players and backing his players to a fault, and I don't think they'll go back.
Hayden Young. Now, out with a hamstring once again. How concerning. We spoke about this in our first episode, that he needs to be one of the players for Fremantle that is playing consistent football throughout 2026, already round 2, and he's missed a game. Yeah,
hugely concerning. I said it was going to be the Rucks, but it's Hayden Young. In my mind, they can't win it without Hayden Young playing. And round 2, and he's got the string with his history. Yeah, huge concern, mate. Huge concern. I don't know what they do. They'd be doing everything in their power to get him up and get him physically sound. They've had a whole pre-season to prepare him, and then bang, he's gone. So, yeah, I think it was a minor one. I think it was awareness that he was able to play through. And normally those ones, they bleed, but and there's a little nick there, but it doesn't hold them out for a long period of time. But, yeah, it's hugely concerning, especially with the game in that perpetual motion, and we think the intensity is up and fatigue is up. Yeah, can he hold up? At the moment, the answer is no, which is a huge concern.
So that's the Fremantle Dockers, okay? And, yeah, with those hamstrings, I mean, they don't magically go away, do they, once they've started? That's another concern. But, that's the Fremantle Dockers. Now, you spoke about concussions there briefly. Have you heard that Angus Brayshaw's having a few issues in getting some payouts from obviously being forced to retire a couple of years ago now? It's concerning that the AFL haven't been able to pay him out. Zurich, in particular, is the big company that are putting a stop to it at the moment.
Yeah, it didn't really surprise me though, mate. I mean, they're talking about 7-figure payouts from both areas. One from the AFLPA or the AFL, and one from Zurich, right? And there's a bit of a story there because Zurich is Melbourne's one of their major sponsors.
Big sponsor, yeah.
Yeah. So there's a story there. But it doesn't surprise me in the slightest, mate. At the end of the day, this is my take on it, right? So we choose to play as players, right? And you take on the responsibility to look after yourself on the field. There's going to be contact, both generated by the opposition or incidental, if that makes sense. You're going to get picked off at times, you're going to get hit, and you play the game that you love because you get remunerated for it. You love it, and you know what's coming, right? So the concussion thing worries me a little bit when, I think at this point in time there's 100 people in that class action for concussion. and they're looking at, like, you've seen reports where they're talking about $2 million per player, up to $2 million per player, because the AFL's been technically negligent to protect their players. I don't necessarily agree with players now going back to the AFL and trying to get money based on concussion. I don't actually agree with it. I know Shepherd's going after the AFL at the moment, I think, from memory. Yeah. And Brayshaw. Like, Brayshaw knew he had issues a long time before he retired. So why did he continue to play? There's a duty of care to look after yourself, right? And I think, yeah, it's very sad that he had to come out of the game with concussions, but he chose to play the game, all right? So with Zurich, right, so my understanding is that Hamish has been filmed. You know, they've got people following him around, making sure that he's not doing things that are it's keeping him away from working, right? So he's playing golf, he's at his wedding, he's looking great. That's my understanding. And yeah, if Hamish Brayshaw can't work, then that's really, really sad. No, horrible. But if you can play golf, I think you can go to work as well. So I think you're going to find that there's going to be
but you've got to live your life as well.
You've got to live your life. But, mate, if you're going after the AFL and an insurance company for $2 million, they're within their rights to make sure you're not taking a piss as well.
Yeah.
You know, and that's my point is, you know, like, there's going to be a lot of people out there that take advantage of the AFL and this huge uproar about concussion. I'm talking around in circles at the moment, but I think they're well within their rights to investigate it.
Well, and it's a big part, this concussion lawsuit's a big part of why we've seen so many rule changes with the game, the MRO rulings as well. You know, we've spoken actually briefly about this. I wanted to touch on it. So a big part of the game at the moment, and if we talk about the state of the game, if you miss a tackle, the opposition could be off and running, goal scored against you, right? If you slip a tackle. But look at Bailey Humphrey on the weekend. So he's copped a week or two for his tackle on Rioli. Now, if he lets go of that tackle,
goal.
Could be a goal, couldn't it?
Yeah.
So what do you do? What are you supposed to do as a player?
Don't know. I don't know. Literally, I don't know. And the players don't know. You know, you're 100% right. You miss a tackle with the way the game's getting played this year, it's pretty much a goal. You know, against the good side, you miss and they've got a numerical advantage, it's a goal. So when Bailey Humphries has got hold of Rioli on the weekend, like, what can he do? He didn't. The thing with Bailey, which cooked him, was he didn't sort of, once he only got hips, he didn't transition up to an arm to try to secure the ball. And then obviously you're slinging without trying to get up to it. So he was cooked. But you're 100% right. There's like, when it's never been more important that you stick a tackle, right, aggressively and stop the ball in its tracks, and it's called ball security inside the industry. You got to secure an arm or secure the ball so the ball doesn't bobble and pop, and it can just break at pace. So when it's never been more important that you do that, and you have to do that with incredible intent and, you know, courage and aggression and all those sorts of things. And then, I don't know what they do, because those unfortunate instances like the Rioli one on the weekend are just going to continue to result in 2-3 week bans when the head hits the ground.
And Morris is a strong player, right?
Yes.
So if Humphrey just eases off ever so slightly, he's gone. He's gone. He's a strong player. You have to sometimes bring that player to ground, and unfortunately, sometimes you have to use all of your might. And that's where he's been pinged.
That's right. And then you line that up with the Newcombe one pre-season against Richards, when he's grabbed him, he's secured the arm so he can't get the ball out because he's holding it, and then he's drilled him, right? And then because his head doesn't hit the ground, he doesn't get time. That's just where people and players are just so frustrated that it's just all outcome based.
Yeah, that's where it is, unfortunately. I'll tell you what, another rule, stand rule. Did you catch the one in the Saints GWS game? Ryan Marshall received a 50.
Yeah, it's just defies belief, mate. You know, and I must admit, like, I was listening to someone calling the footy coming home from on Saturday. I think I was coming home from the races, and all you hear in the FX mic is stand. It'd be a good drinking game because you wouldn't get past 10 minutes into the first quarter because you'd be blind. But I
had the exact same thought.
You can't listen to it on the radio. And it's hard. It's so hard to watch. And like, And we'll overlay one of them, mate. Like there was one in that game where a player takes the catch and you can line it up with the hoardings on the side of the ground. The player sort of runs up. He gets about 3 metres away from the point of the mark and backs out of it, like he's allowed to do, and the umpire goes bang. The problem with this rule, it's so black and white. The major penalty of 50 metres for the infringement, and the umpires umpire it with no common sense. There's no back in the day, right? And I still think Rosebery umpires this way because you never see him. Rosebery's still the best in the AFL because he knows his footy and he's got great common sense, right? But you watch the umpire now and the bad ones will just go, Matt, stand. They'll start yelling at you. It's not like, Matty, come back and meet him. Matty, oi, come back. Oi, get out, mate. Matty, get out of the protected area. You've got to go now, Matty. There's no common sense. There's no, instructing players to actually get out of that protected area or stay in it and stand. It's just a black and white stand, idiot, And you see them, they don't know, the players don't know what to do, so they'll half get in and he's yelling stand, so they'll stop and put their hand up. What an indictment on the game to watch players run in and like little 6-year-old kids put their hands up and go, I'm not sure I'm supposed to be here. Yeah. It's an indictment on the game. It's laughable. Can't stand it. So
it looks shit out.
And the thing is, Matty, you're right. If we can come up with a knee-jerk reaction on the ruffle of the hair, right, to add that into the competition on a whim, right, then we can take the stand rule out of the game or relax it where the umpires can actually commentate their way through it and get the players to do what they want to do without giving them the biggest infringement in the game.
The exact same thought I had. That stand is shocking. I hate hearing it. Stand. Oh, piss off, right? I'll tell you.
Take the mic off them. Why do we have to? I know they're an integral part of the game, but they're also getting remunerated really, really well. Why are they mic'd up? Why are they mic'd up?
Yeah.
Why do we have to listen to umpires when we're there to watch the players play? I don't understand. It's another pet peeve of mine. Like, you're watching the footy and you might want to listen to the commentator if you've got a good pundit actually talking about it, and you're just hearing this constant rhetoric from 3 umpires on the ground. I don't understand why we have to watch umpires.
While you're on to commentators, something that's just getting up my goat at the moment.
Yeah.
BT. And I love BT. I think he's a great commentator. I think he's so entertaining.
Yeah.
But Jesus Christ, how many times do we have to hear him talking about a good player going off at a critical time in the game on Channel 7? If it's a close game, every single close game, he talks about, he brings it up, so-and-so's on the bench at a crucial time. All right, we've heard it for the last 2-3 years, BT.
Carry on. He's a dog with a bone, isn't he? Mind you, he's right.
He is right.
He's right, mate. Like, that St Kilda game, late in games, right, when it's close, fuck your rotations, right, Matty? Rotations are massive, to maintain running pressure. But late in the game, right, when there's 5 to go, every single coach goes we need our best players on the ground, right, for the last 5 minutes of the game, regardless of whether they're cooked or not, because I'm going to win or lose the game based on my good players, right, and I'm not going to lose a game based on Nazai Wanganeen Malira being off the ground or TD Carl, whoever it was, or Sinclair, right? So in that instance, I think he's 100% correct. And I think I think it's a real failure of coaches in the last 5 minutes if that happens. If they let rotations override feel for the game, I think it's a real failure by coaches at times. So, yes, BT's a dog with a bone, but I actually think he's 100% correct.
I think he's correct too, but I don't need to hear it every game.
Not every game, no. It is every game at the moment.
It is every game. It is every single close game of footy. I love BT. I think he's great. I do think he's great. A couple of other things. So we'll get to... Actually, I want to get to something from earlier in the round, Adelaide and the Western Bulldogs. So there's been a bit of criticism towards the Crows for the way that they are playing footy at the moment. Right, they lost by 6 points on the weekend to the Doggies. Right, they challenged them right until the last second in that game. Right, and the Doggies, we're considering premiership contenders, are we not?
Yeah, 100%.
Same as the Crows,
I
or
would
no?
say, I would say right now they're favourites.
So why are people talking about the Crows are being left behind? They're not keeping up with the game. The game's much faster. You've got to play at a higher rate. Is there not a space in the game for a point of difference where you can actually play a little bit slower, play a little bit different to everyone else? Or do you have, if you're a club like Adelaide, do you have to keep up with the way the game's going?
Nah, not at all. And time will tell. Like as you were banging on about Essendon, it's too early to tell.
Yeah.
The data set isn't big enough to judge Essendon. We're pretty sure they're shit, right? But it's not a great body of work to make the call on. And Adelaide's the same. Like Adelaide, the body of work for me for Adelaide is they've won 19 games in the last 2 years. They won 18 last year. They're 1-2 this year. They lost to the premiership favourites. In many people's minds by 6 points and led with, I think, 5 minutes to go. You know, and you can't even sit here and say that Adelaide don't want to play like that. Western Bulldogs might have been incredible defensively. I didn't see a lot of that game, so I can't comment. But they might have been incredible defensively. They might be ahead of the curve in how they're setting up the ground to actually defend this new style of play where everyone bounces. They might have transitioned to a more one-on-one style of play quicker than everyone else because the teams that are trying to zone and set up aren't working because once it breaks and you got space, your zone's cooked. Right, so Western Bulldogs for mine might be the first team potentially that have gone to a one-on-one defence where they just get goal side and try to defend the ground as best they can.
Yeah.
So teams can't bust through you. So who knows? So it's not a big enough data set to actually have a crack at Adelaide now, especially after they won 18 games and were minor premiers last year.
I find that bizarre that after a couple of games of footy and they just took it to the Western Bulldogs to the very end that, they've been left behind.
Yeah, they look static. I saw a bit of it early. They looked static early and they had a lot of uncontested marks and they couldn't get through. But, after half-time it broke, and they hammered back at them and almost got them. So, yeah, look, it's a watch. But, yeah, I don't think they're playing a hell of a lot different than every other team.
Now, we played some audio before of Wayne Carey. Something that he mentioned as well was that older players are now starting to dominate the game. So Scott Pendlebury, Zorko, Gawn, these guys are still at the top of their game. Jack Gunston is another one. I was speaking to Ben Cotton from Fox Footy. He said that Jack Gunston deserves to be talked about as one of the best forwards of this century, 21st century. I had a look at it. I'm not too sure where he would fit in, but what are your thoughts on the way Jack Gunston's playing and does he deserve to be considered one of the best of this century?
He's right up there. Look, statistically, I haven't really seen his stats to compare him to a Buddy and, Lockett. Lockett was still going. Was he in 2000?
No, we're not considering Lockett. We're considering the Buddies and the
Buddies.
Tom Hawkins, Matt Lloyds.
He's certainly in the top 10,
Jonathan
isn't he?
Browns.
Yeah, he's probably in the top 10. I reckon he would be.
Okay.
Yeah, well, very well. If he's not in the top 10, he'd be very close.
I think maybe top 15.
Top 15. Oh, that's a long way away from 10. But
15, 20.
Look, he's a very good player. And look, I just think that his ability to identify dangerous space has always been elite. Always been elite. And as we've spoken about, the standard of the footy has gone back, especially with zoning defences where they're sitting off and try to play, opposition offences with a team defence. Sometimes he finds himself with 2 or 3 metres and he just identifies space great. So, look, he's a very, very good player. Like a very good player. And, yeah, what is he now, 36?
Yeah. I think
looks like he could play till he's 38, 39, doesn't he? So
certainly does. Yeah. He's 34.
34.
Yep.
Shit, you could see him playing for 2-3 years on current form.
Yeah.
What he's doing, he's really showing up guys like even in his own side, like Lewis and Marby or Chol. He's actually showing them up for footy craft, isn't he? And there's something to be said for really, really smart footballers. And gets back to how Milan, Murdoch and Manor and these guys sit playing waffle footy and state league footy when they're such good players. If you're a good footballer, you're a really good footballer.
Brad Wira. Now, he's been appointed the CEO of WA Football. So we talk about development, we talk about the quality of footballers coming through. What should his first port of call be for West Australian footy, for footy in general, to get the kids coming through, to be for clubs to be drafting as many WA players as possible?
Oh, I'd love Brad to be the first person in WA footy hierarchy that identifies that we need to spend money on coaching, mate? Because none of them have up until this point in time. And he needs to find a way to take money away from the elite end of the pathway and all of the roles that are centred around governance across many levels of our game, and find ways to invest in coaching. And we spoke about it last week, mate, because the game's in such a mess and fundamental skill is in such a mess, and we've never spent less money on coaching at any time in AFL history. And so that'd be the number one thing for me, which is try to find ways every way you can, trying to find ways to get money back into grassroots footy. And the number one focus is upskilling your coaches and teaching them how to coach kids. Because it doesn't exist at the moment, mate. It's a tick box exercise and somewhere where they can raise money at the moment. That's across Australia, not just WA.
Where's the money going?
Elite end of the pathway. It's all going to lead into the pathway, mate. You know, like when we're spending $40 million, it's costing the AFL $40 million to put on the AFLW. But it's like all of the money, like the majority of the money goes into a elite end of the pathway, and you look at it and you look at the staffing at the elite end of the pathway. It's incredible. Well, five or 6 years ago, mate, we had the parliamentary inquiry into the WAFC and where all the money was going. I've seen where the money goes, mate, inside that organisation, and it's so weighted towards the top end. And we need to get serious about supporting the bottom end really, really quickly, or footy will continue to fail, right? And we can sit on participation numbers, right? But participation numbers are boosted by the explosion in the female game and all the young girls that are playing footy, which is fantastic. Youth male footy is in a real mess, right? So, and we need to put a shitload of money into that bottom end of the competition.
Yeah, well...
And he's got to get Belly. He's got to get Belly to do his job.
Okay.
In my mind.
So
that's his first thing he has to do. We will see if Spewy's serious, but you can't have your executive manager of talent who's on a big whack to look after talent. And I've spoken about this before. Like Belly's a legend of the Fremantle Footy Club. Amazing footy person, South Fremantle. And so I'm like, this isn't even a crack at Belly. But even Belly must be sitting there on the radio going, shit, I'm getting another lick of the ice cream here at SEN. Sitting here, all the preparation he has to do, you know, away from the microphone to actually do that. I don't even know whether he's doing Saturday morning radio again. But we'll see if Spewy is serious, because you can't have your executive manager of talent, the most important person in the state that runs talent. You can't have him doing that role and also have another role on SEN. And all the preparation, all the long hours. He gets up for probably 4:30 in the morning to go and do it, so he's tired of an afternoon, all those sorts of things. We need an executive manager of talent that actually focuses wholly and solely on talent.
So what should the executive manager performance pathways be doing day-to-day basis?
He should be everywhere, mate.
Yeah.
He should be going to junior footy on a Sunday, right? And going to High Wycombe and going to Midvale and going to the country and going everywhere, not just the western suburbs. I'm not sure what he does on a Sunday, all right? But he should be going everywhere and having a look at the game environment, right? And having a look at the skill level, right? That's one thing he should be doing on a Sunday. And if he's not doing that, then he's not doing his job. Certainly, and I'm certainly talking about in the fledgling stages of his role. He's only been there, 6-8 months? Right, so go and see where community footy's at and the game environment and the coaching standard and the quality of the kids. Then on Saturday mornings, he should be going down to watch Colts footy. Because, mate, I saw Colts footy last week, and it's at one of the lowest ebbs I've ever seen, the two sides I saw. Now, if that continues, you've got a huge problem even on game day. So what do we have to do at Waffle Land to make sure our coaches and so forth are at the height of their powers? What's our state focus on what we're doing for our kids on a week-to-week basis? He needs to be in the country talking to our country zones as well, which are in absolute deep decline. Huge decline because less kids are playing. They're getting very little support. They run on volunteers. Those volunteers are getting older and dying and leaving the industry because they're exhausted, right? So he needs to be getting out there and in the country areas as well. So it's a huge role, and it's a role that's not 9 to 5, mate. She's an arvo role, and it's a weekend role, and it's a role that takes a hell of a lot of energy. And yeah, as I said, mate, like I love Belly as a player. I don't know him as a person, but even he'd have to be sitting there going, geez, I'm spending a lot of time on this. Well, I can't believe I'm getting 2 bites of the cherry here. So I want him I want the most important person that's involved at the Footy Commission in terms of talent to focus wholly and solely on talent.
All right. Well, there you go. That's a big call from you.
Well,
but
I think I think you don't get two bites of the cherry in any walk of life, do you?
No, not at all.
In a work sense.
Yeah. And you and I know, I mean, just for preparation for this show, how long it takes to put together.
Correct.
Let alone, a couple of hours on radio, a couple of times a week at least.
Yeah, well, your show in afternoon 91.3, how long do you spend researching one show?
The whole day.
Correct.
Day to day. Every day.
Yeah. So if you're going to do the radio well, which you do, I don't want to give you too much of a plug, but you're really, really well researched and really professional. If you're going to do it, you have to spend a fair bit of time investing in your actual final product. So it's not just about the roll-on radio. It's about the preparation to actually get that right and do it at a higher level, which he does. Right. So that's my point. I want Belly up to his eyeballs in WA talent and making it better. And that means getting to grassroots footy and getting his hands dirty.
Well, there you go. Another big show today. I think it's just about time for us to wrap things up again. It goes so quick.
It does when you're talking shit.
It does. Anything else you want to throw out there before we get going today?
No, I think that's about it. AFL level, isn't it?
I think so.
I think we covered most of it.
Yeah. Well, I think next week we'll talk a bit of waffle footy.
Yeah, looking forward to that.
Season starts on the 3rd.
Yeah, it's going to be a good year.
Of April, yeah.
Yeah, going to be a nice, close, compact year, I reckon, at the top end.
I think so too. I think there's a few clubs that are going to be competing for a premiership. But South Fremantle, can they go back to back? That's going to be a question. They've lost some of their key talents. Perth, you'd expect to rise a little bit further.
East Perth, probably favourite.
Yeah, East Perth are going to be right up there. Claremont, do they sit about the same? Do they decline? Do they improve? Where do they go? They've lost Jai Bolton.
Big money, I heard. I was in Bunbury, mate. I was in Bunbury on the weekend and walked into a room they do on the pre-game. It was actually on the Friday, and I walked into a function which had all the Bunbury people getting prepared for the week. And I spoke to a couple of the coaches down there, and I'm not sure whether they were talking shit. But Jai Bolton, right, they're talking $3,000 a game in the country, which is a problem in itself for waffle footy.
Yeah.
$3,000 a game. Like, what does that mean for waffle footy when your Sandover medalists can go to the country for more cash?
Yeah.
And when I say cash, I'm hoping it's on the books.
Well,
but
yeah,
that's what I was told by two different sources. So Harvey Brunswick is the club that he's going to, and they were talking about those numbers. Now, they might have been bullshitting, but if that's the case and your Sandover medalist leaves the waffle still at the height of his powers, all right, for that sort of money, the waffle's got a problem.
Of course they do. I mean, players that are on the fringe of playing league football, they get thrown cash by these country clubs who can afford it because what else do they do in the country besides go and watch footy on the weekends?
Yeah, mate, I know of some really average waffle players. They're copping their $700-800 to play in the country. It's even a bigger problem this year, mate, because WA just had the biggest harvest known to man. It set all world records, so all the wheat belt teams as well have got a shitload of cash to throw around from the farmers that are supporters of the club. So, yeah, there has to be. Yeah, we really need to get hold of that as well because of the declining capacity at the lower end. Right, and then obviously we're getting clipped. The waffle competition's getting clipped at the top end because average players get sucked out of the waffle to go and play at Newdigate or, for want of a better term, Jurien Bay, wherever it is, Harvey Brunswick or whatever. You got a problem when, your talent's getting sucked out at both ends of the competition. You got big problems, and at the same time, clubs are in, historically, mate, really, really bad at looking after their finances. So clubs that are potentially paying big money in the country, huge money, right? So the money can dry up really, really quickly and put clubs under extreme financial distress. So we need to find a way to control that spending.
Buddy Franklin's going to play country footy.
That'll make some money for the club. How good.
Yeah.
I'm actually thinking about jumping in the car.
Yeah.
That would be a great
Maybe
footy
we could
day.
carpool.
That'd be great because that would be a great footy day. Going down there and...
Great people at Darren. I played a bit of footy at Darren.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Darren Field Day is one of the greatest days of all time. And there'll be a huge crowd. There'll be great food everywhere. There'll be beers. There'll be carrying on. There'll be cheering. There'll be great functions afterwards. The kids will be on the bouncy castles. It'll be one of the great footy days up at Darren.
It'll be great. It'll be great. Really looking forward to that. Yeah. Did you go to the races on the weekend?
I did.
Yeah?
Yeah, I did.
How'd you go?
Third. Yeah,
Okay.
little horse called Cessation ran third.
All right.
Yeah, no, she goes good. She's talking about A and B graders. She's won about 280,000 now, but she's a B grader. You know, she's a star in our eyes and everyone that owns her. We love that little horse. But yeah, with the real top echelon of racehorses in WA, she's not quite up to them. So yeah, she's a beauty and will continue to be. But yeah, she's not quite up to those Quokka standard horses.
Yeah. Now, we've spoken a couple of times today that I have my own radio show on 91.3. Spoke to Lockie Taylor from Racing WA.
Yeah.
He mentioned...
that short little boy.
he mentioned that you don't really have a head for this.
Whilst he's 100% correct, well, 100% correct, he shouldn't be throwing stones. Actually, no, he's a good-looking boy, but hopefully you can overlay that photo I took of him off Sky off the weekend.
It wasn't too flattering. I don't know, did you put it, was it AI?
No, that's Lockie's head.
Oh, no.
Yeah, he's got a head like a drive-in movie theatre. It's a five head. It's a five head. It's a big forehead. So whilst he can call me ugly, right, and yes, I am ugly, and I've been dealing with his head for 49 years. He is in no position, that boy, to throw stones. But I love you, Lockie. You're a good boy.
He's a great man, Lockie, and shout out to him. We've got a few things to talk about your head, I think, in the coming weeks. Stewie Lowe did something to your head a few years back, didn't he?
Yeah, he did. We'll get that clip and we'll put it up because, again, it gets back to that concussion thing, you know, and just going after the AFL. Stewie Lowe did probably get somewhere between 8 and 10 weeks given the damage he did to me and the ongoing damage as well. You know, I've been dealing with my teeth and head issues ever since. You know, I won't talk about it like in length, but one of the things that happened after that, and this is no bullshit, mate, I had awful trouble straight after that. And I remember going to uni one day. I was living in Melville. It was about 4 weeks afterwards. I got back and I actually got to uni. I got out of the car and I had a towel around me. I hadn't dried myself when I got out of the shower. I was a fucking mess and a mess for a long period of time, standing there, you know, ordering something and just forgetting what you wanted to order, you know, stuff like that. So, yeah, got a couple of head knocks across the journey. But to be honest, would I change it for anything? No. Will I go after my club and that you know, allow me to go back out there? No, because like every footballer, we'd do it time and time again if we had the chance again.
That's why we do this podcast here, because we love the game of Aussie rules.
Correct.
So we can't get enough of it. Unfortunately, that's our time for today. So thank you again to our major sponsor, Geograph Equipment Hire in Canning Vale, your trusted partner for mining and construction hire solutions backed by hands-on industry experience and a passion for customer service. Thanks to Grubo's Trucking and to Emergency Water Supplies in Biibra Lake, out of water from swimming pools to tanks, domestic and commercial. And thank you to Tint in Osborne Park. Enhance privacy and style for your ride home. Visit Tint Osborne Park today and feel the difference. Greg, thank you to you.
Thanks, buddy.
Thanks to everyone for watching along or listening along. We'll be back next week. But until then, it's goodbye for now.